Welcome to Burnout-Free Me, your success and well-being podcast. I'm Dr. Amy Grimm, and I am so glad you're here. Let's go from burnout to breakthrough together. Hi, vet friends. Welcome to episode number 77 of the Daring DVM podcast. Before we dive in, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody who came to the online workshop. I had so much fun teaching you about your stress response and teaching you how to use some simple de-stress tools in your own life. It was so fun meeting you and answering your questions and getting to see all of your lovely faces. Once I have the recording available, then I'll send it out to those of you who are on the newsletter in case you weren't able to attend the presentation. So if you haven't yet done that, come join me because I would love to keep sharing more insights and tools with you. Okay, let's dive in to today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about a not so fun topic. Today, we're talking about getting sued, having a board complaint filed against you, and really, the fear of legal recourse. In the United States in particular, it's not uncommon for doctors to be very aware of potential legal ramifications to their actions. Now, logically and realistically, we all know that there is a difference between what is considered malpractice or negligence and what is not. And as veterinarians and professionals, we're pretty clear about what is okay, what's not okay, what's allowed, and what's not allowed. We also recognize that there are repercussions for certain actions that we take or don't take. This is the reality. This is why we have professional liability insurance. This is a fact of practicing veterinary medicine. Yet, for so many of us, it creates a huge amount of stress. This type of fear is not unique to veterinary medicine. If you've been following politics in our recent history, you know there is a lot of concern in the human medical field as well. Even today, you're probably aware of the conversations around women's reproductive health, and you probably have your own thoughts and concerns about it. So, although it's not specifically unique to vet med, it's definitely something that sets medical professions apart from other types of careers. I previously listened to a podcast where they were talking about these types of fears for human physicians, and one thing that I liked about the episode is that they broke it down into primary, secondary, and tertiary fear. And I like this concept because I think it gives us a better understanding of what is going on internally. And when we have a better understanding of something, then we are better able to manage it in our own lives. So when you think of practicing as a veterinarian, you can think of the fear of a lawsuit or board complaint as being the primary fear. You are a good human being doing the best you can for your patient, and in the back of your mind, there's always a what if. And for many of us who have been practicing vet med for a while, we're able to hold space for that discomfort and for the possibility that we may face a lawsuit, and we're still able to show up and be the best vets that we can for our patients. And this is not something to downplay. It's definitely a fear that's there. And sometimes it can be a little ambiguous. Things can be different between states. For example, practicing telemedicine, or what your RVT or LVT is allowed to do, like dental cleanings versus extractions. And it can be challenging to be in a position where maybe there's a little bit of a gray area, because so much of what helps us feel safe is knowing where that line is. In general, you know that if you follow certain rules and practice in a certain way, you are keeping yourself safe. So that's kind of the primary fear, knowing that there are potential legal ramifications, and it is something that can happen to you and has likely happened to people that you know, but as long as the lines aren't blurry or constantly changing, then we're usually able to have a pretty good handle on it. Secondary fear is what I think we experience when we witness these things happening to our colleagues. So for example, maybe you're in a Facebook group for veterinarians, just like you, and you witness their struggles and fears and confusion and anger when they are going through a board complaint. And it may not even be a board complaint at that time. It could just be a client threatening to file a complaint. It may be a mistake or something that went wrong, and your colleague is upset because they think that the client will likely file a complaint, or because the client is attacking them on social media. And because this hits a nerve and it triggers our nervous system response, it can be easy for us to take on that fear. We all have stories of friends and colleagues who have been through a board complaint, and our survival brain has identified this as a threat. And because we are primed to reacting to this type of threat, and because we are exposed to it through our social circles and stories from people who we know, or in some cases may not know because it's through a Facebook group, it can be very easy for us to feel anxious too. What I want to say is it's very important to recognize that this is a secondary fear. The worry or anxiety that you're feeling isn't coming from something that is directly impacting you. You are watching this happen to somebody else and getting upset about it. And that's not to say that this is bad. You certainly don't have to judge yourself for doing it. But I do think it's important to recognize that this is a secondary fear. It's having a secondary effect on you. And then there is this concept of tertiary fear, which is a little bit more challenging to define. It's kind of like this deep down fear about the fear of litigation in general and what it means about you. It's about other people deciding your intent or questioning your values as a doctor and who you are as a person. And there's almost this underlying feeling of not having control. In some cases, there might be an anger present because you have this belief about how this is unfair. You're not intentionally trying to harm the patient or to be neglectful, yet if you are a human and you make a mistake, you're on the line for it in the same way as if you had purposefully done something wrong. So we understand that these fears exist. And if you've been listening to me for a while or we've worked together, you also understand that these fears come from the way we are thinking. You also know that if you change your thinking, you can change the way you feel. But what I want to make clear is that we don't want to use coaching tools against ourselves. You don't want to use coaching tools against yourself to tell yourself you shouldn't be feeling the way that you feel. And you shouldn't be telling yourself that there is something wrong with you because you feel this way, because logically you know that if you could just change how you think, then you would feel better. And I think this area of medico-legal fears is one of those in which you may not always want to change the way that you feel. There are times where you want to feel bad about something, and that's fine. It is perfectly okay to not be okay with the fact that if you make an innocent mistake, you can still be sued as if you had done it purposefully. What is important is being able to recognize that you are choosing to feel that way and knowing that you have the power to change it if you want to. You don't have to, but that choice is always there and within your control. So I think trying to wrap your head around it this way gives you an opportunity for contemplation and to build self-awareness and to reflect on your own thoughts and feelings. And thinking about this gives us an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and to strengthen our own relationships with ourselves. So I want to offer you some thoughts about these medico-legal fears. Let's start with the primary fear. If you're a practicing veterinarian and you find yourself constantly struggling with the thought of a board complaint, and this causes you anxiety and stress because you're thinking about the what ifs, what I would encourage you to do is to practice regulating yourself and bringing yourself into the present moment as much as possible. This also applies if you are a veterinarian who is currently facing a board complaint because you are also likely thinking about the what ifs. The reason it's so important to regulate yourself and bring yourself into the present moment as much as possible is because when you worry about what may happen and you're focusing on potential problems, it really just makes you feel worse. So to help you feel less stressed and nervous, you need to focus on being in the present moment, and you need to focus on the things that are within your control. You can get very clear on the facts of what is negligent or malpractice or not. You can stay up to date on policies and your state laws. You can provide yourself counsel. You can have professional liability insurance. And you can choose how you want to practice in those gray areas that match your level of comfort or risk. And if you find yourself in the midst of a board complaint, this approach is helpful because when you focus on regulating yourself and bringing yourself to the present moment, you can be rational and logical and look at the facts. And it is so much easier to make decisions and to move forward when you are operating from your zone of safety instead of being all hyperactivated and worrying about the future. And whether you are someone who has a fear of a board complaint or whether you are facing one of the best things that you can do for yourself is work with someone like a coach or a therapist to help you process all the feelings that are coming up. You want to be able to face and process feelings of anger, fear, anxiety, shame, and whatever other negative emotion comes up for you. You do not have to struggle through this alone. Having someone hold space for you to just unpack everything and to listen to you and to witness your experience and to maybe challenge any beliefs that are causing you pain is incredibly helpful. And that's not to say your coach or therapist is trying to convince you of something different. It's more about self-awareness and acceptance of what is and is not within your control and what you are making those things mean. If somebody files a board complaint against you, legitimate or not, it is perfectly okay to feel upset. But what you don't want to do is beat yourself up further for being upset or because you think you should have done something differently or because you believe that a good doctor wouldn't have let this happen or because you believe this is the end of your career or because you believe this is unfair and you can't believe that the client would act this way. Going through something like this is painful enough, and you don't have to layer unnecessary pain on top of that. And in order for you to get through the pain and to heal, you really need to face those unconscious thoughts and emotions that are triggering this primary fear. And please, please, please remember, be kind to yourself. Going through a lawsuit or a board complaint is challenging. It is okay to not feel okay. That is normal. You have not done anything wrong. And also remember, it's not going to last forever. It may be difficult and painful now, but it is not going to last forever. You can offer yourself so much love and grace and compassion and kindness during this experience. Okay. Now on to the secondary fear, which is the stress and anxiety that we tend to take on from those around us. The first step I would offer here is that you create awareness for yourself and learn to recognize when and how you take on the fear of other people. You need to first be aware of it before you can work on it. When people share these negative experiences in a social media context, I think there's this underlying assumption that if we feel really bad too, and we vocalize it, then we're somehow able to take some of that pain and that bad feeling away from the person who is suffering. So we get outraged and angry, or we commiserate with them. But the truth is, you cannot ever feel bad enough to relieve somebody else's pain. You cannot feel bad enough to relieve somebody else of their pain. This doesn't mean that you ignore it or pretend that everything is great and it's not a problem. What it means is that you bring yourself to the present moment and get curious about how you're showing up for yourself. Is the way that you are showing up for yourself and other people helping you and them? Is you worrying about somebody else actually useful to either them or to you? Because the truth is, it's not. Worry pretends to be a useful emotion. And many times we feel like if we don't worry, then it means that we don't care. But that's not true. You can absolutely be empathetic and understanding and compassionate and kind without taking on secondary stress and anxiety. Once you have recognized that you are taking on the secondary fears, the next thing you want to do is process the emotions that come up for you. If you just find yourself stewing in anger, you're not really able to help or serve anyone. So you want to process that emotion in order to move forward. Because I think for many of us, there is this inclination to help and to get involved, especially when a colleague is seeking support and advice, or you know that there is a client posting mean things about them online and spreading stories. The inclination is to help. And if this sounds like you, then what I would recommend is, how can you be an advocate or an ally? Posting equally mean things about how the client is an idiot or a piece of work is not helpful. So what can you actually do that will help the people involved as they move forward? Adding to the fear and anger is not going to create a positive result for anybody. So what can you do that is helpful and supportive without adding more hate? And once again, if you're feeling stuck and like you don't know how to do this because you're just so upset on the behalf of somebody else, coaching or therapy can be very helpful. And now finally, let's talk about the tertiary cause, because this is really the deep work, and this is where coaching and therapy really shine. The thing to remember here is that your self-worth is the value that you see in yourself. Your own value as a human being comes from within you. So just because somebody else doesn't appear to value you in the way that you would like them to, does not mean that you have to agree with them. This work requires you to focus on supporting yourself. You need to be rock solid in your own self-worth, your own confidence, and your own value. That way, if something truly goes wrong, or if somebody files a meritless complaint, you do not find yourself spiraling and catastrophizing and your anxiety is getting out of control. If you are not solid on your worth and value as a human and as a veterinarian, it can be quite easy to spiral down this hole. Now, in an ideal world, you would recognize that you need help with your self-worth and identity, and you would reach out and work with a coach or therapist before anything ever goes wrong. But that's not always the case, because most of us don't even know this type of resource is available, and also, some of us don't even know that we have these deeper unconscious beliefs about not being good enough. So if this is something of which you become aware, it's great to reach out for help. And if you're someone who is already going down that dark rabbit hole, it is not too late to reach out. There are so many people out there willing to help you do this work. If you're able to heal yourself, not only can you show up for yourself and your team and your patients, but you can also help heal someone in the future. If you've done the inner work, it's far easier for you to be empathetic and to help someone in their own healing journey. Your self-worth and value as a human being is independent of whether or not you are ever faced with a lawsuit. It is independent of whether or not a client sues you with a real or a baseless claim. It is independent of whether or not they blast you on social media. And it is independent of whether you truly are at fault or not. Hear me on this. Even if you did the thing, you are still worthy and valuable as a human being. And that is what I want to leave you with to contemplate. No matter where you are as it relates to primary, secondary, or tertiary medico-legal fear, you are always valuable and worthy as a human being. And your very natural, normal fears and anxieties do not have to overwhelm you or rule your life. You can always meet yourself with understanding and grace and kindness and compassion. And if you do not know how to do this for yourself, then please reach out to me, because I would love to help you. Check out the link in the show notes or on my website, Daring DVM, for a free, no-strings-attached coaching conversation. It's private, it's confidential, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And if you'd like to stay in touch and up to date with me and my coaching, you can join my newsletter. The link is also in the show notes or on my website. Remember, board complaints and lawsuits and legal ramifications are a part of the job. Stress, fear, and anxiety do not have to be. Okay, my friends, I love who you are, and even more than that, I love who you're becoming. Dare to heal and dare to dream.